Ever since I announced, you just look at the comments and you're like, yeah, she's staying because she's going to make so much more money staying in college than WNBA. And it's just like, you guys have literally no idea. Because like NIL, like nothing changes. It's just like once you get to the league, like the title changes. It's no longer an NIL deal. It's just an endorsement deal. So if we continue to perform as we go, like in the league, they're going to continue to invest in you and continue to want to work with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Bird. I am a recently retired WNBA player, played for 20 plus years, did all the things. Give it a Google if you don't know, because I'm not rattling it off. And I'm here joined by...
I'm Aliyah. Just finished my rookie year with the Indiana Fever. Went to the University of South Carolina and won Rookie of the Year in the WNBA.
I'm Nneka Ogwumike, entering my 13th season in the WNBA. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm also serving my third term as president of the Players Association, and I'm looking forward to actually a major career change. You know, I'm not playing for the same team, so I'm now in Seattle.
I'm Paige Bueckers, a junior, senior, sophomore, whatever you want to call it, at UConn. Just announced that I'm coming back for a 5th year at UConn, so that's just the latest news.
What do you call yourself, like for real?
I'm a senior, but like when I get announced, I'm like a redshirt junior.
Are you gonna like get your grad degree or something?
I still gotta talk to Ellen. I'm pretty much all schooled out, so.
That's gonna be a really nice segue into some of these conversations. Another question for you, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. What are you gonna do next year for senior night? You're gonna do another senior night?
Yeah, for me, it was like I wanted to walk out with Nneka, Aliyah, and Aubrey, because like we've been through hell together, so I just wanted to walk out with those guys. But yeah, next year's super senior.
So you guys have this NIL experience that Nneka and I do not have. But tell us, and I'll start with you, Paige, on this one. Tell us, how does it actually work? How much of a role do your agents play? How much of a role does the school and the coaches play? We keep hearing out this word collectives. Like, just give us a breakdown of how NIL works from like a larger zoomed out view.
So when you come to UConn, you're coming for the basketball experience and you get free schooling, you get free housing, free food. But for me, like my agents, that circle does a whole lot for me. I told them though, like at first, like basketball is always my first priority. So whenever I have free time or whenever I have extra time, that's when NIL can happen. But for me, it's been a lot of talks with my agent and then companies and brands wanting to work with me, reaching out through Instagram, Twitter. I give them my agent's number and then they kind of communicate that way. For me, a huge part of it is having a great agency team.
I definitely can go right off of Paige on that one. So for Coach Staley, I mean, she was like super excited about NIL just because it's definitely a good way for us to kind of get a head start before we get out into the real world. And so when NIL first got passed, Coach Staley set up a lot of financial meetings with advisors with our parents so that if we didn't have a financial advisor, but they kind of knew the steps of what should happen, what they should be doing, which I thought was really helpful because right now my mom thinks she is like the financial advisor. She knows every single thing. She attended every single class that they put on at South Carolina. But honestly, I think it's a great help. They don't help you with like anything once NIL starts. Like South Carolina's completely out of it. It's you, your agent. Just like Paige said, if a company reached out through social media, you put them in contact with your agent and they kind of do the work from there. And then you would just set up whatever deal it is, if it's going to happen or not. But that's definitely how it went for us.
Nneka, when NIL first became a thing, what was your take, impressions, wherever you want to go with it?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, especially like being in the women's sports space, I'm like, yeah, give them what they deserve. And I kind of started thinking about my own experience and, you know, to be fair, a lot of the women's basketball players would have been valued higher than the men's basketball players at the time. I guess I just started thinking like, oh, wow, like, you know, that would have put things into like a different perspective, you know, because you step into the sports world and when people say basketball, they think NBA, they don't think WNBA. When people, you know, say all these different sports, they don't think of the women's leagues. I had always, even in high school, I had always existed in a sports ecosystem where it was the women's sports that carried the schools to kind of even just, you know, think about what it might have been like back then where it was like Stanford football, women's basketball, women's volleyball, women's gymnastics. Like a lot of the women's teams were the ones that carried a lot of the weight. And so I just started thinking, you know, like that would have been a different experience. And quite frankly, I had a very had a very one-dimensional idea about what NIL was. I didn't understand, which we do now, how it is the Wild Wild West and how it became the Wild Wild West, because, you know, now you're thinking about, you know, not just like players getting paid their value and their worth, but you're thinking about what we do and now adding that to like being in school. So like, I don't know if I would have been able to balance what you guys did, doing appearances, Zoom calls, all these different endorsements, while also going to school, getting the grades to stay eligible and playing at a high level. People always say, oh, you would have made so much money. But I was like, I don't know if I could have shouldered everything to keep it balanced. And so that's what I really thought a lot about NIL. And as it evolves, I even think about like the portal. I think about free agency, you know, like you can recruit players, like other players can recruit players to other teams. It's almost as though we flipped it on its head, where in my experience, and I feel like maybe Sue, you can speak to this, the only control we really had was the decision to go to whatever school it was. And then after that, it was almost like you were locked in. I mean, quite frankly, like if you heard about someone transferring, the first thing you would think like, she pregnant. You know, like that was the first thing that everyone assumed. Like, you know, like they thought that there was either something wrong with you. Like if you had a transfer, you did something wrong for you to leave that school. And now players have so much more autonomy, and it's less so really like on like, say, the coaches and the schools, because the players really kind of determine the forecast of what's going on in college sports now.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that. When a player was transferring, I don't know that I went to pregnancy right away, but when a player was transferring, it was definitely like, well, what happened?
Right.
What's going on? In my college experience, we had one transfer in my 4 years, I think. And it was very much like, it was like, there was a stigma around it. It just meant something.
Right.
Like fill in the blank of what that something was, but it did mean something. But Aliyah, back to you for a second. It's interesting. You're actually a college player that lived with NIL and without.
Yes.
Outside of the obvious that we've already talked about, is there any other things you noticed or could talk about in terms of the difference of playing with NIL and without?
Well, for me, it wasn't really a big deal when it comes to like the focus, because I always prioritize basketball. But if I could say one thing, I think sometimes people was able to choose what they wanted based on how much money they think they're going to make in that sense. Like before NIL, like I had no problems. I still went to class, did my work. And then it, honestly, for me, it's just a bonus. Like this is really nice. I get to connect with brands, able to make more money. And so I loved it. I just think right now it's kind of hard, just how you said, Nneka, about like recruiting. Like it is allowed, it is legal, a recruiting tactic, just telling people, you know, you come here, well, we have this NIL company helping with the team and stuff like that, which I think just kind of makes it hard a little bit to be able to balance like, okay, is my priority basketball or is it making money? Like, do you think I can do both if I make this decision, this jump to transfer, for example? And so, I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it though. It was a great boost for me. I'll say that.
Was it different being a college student that now, you know, for me and Nneka, it was like, we lived off per diem. What's it like being a college student with money?
I never touched my NIL money. It went into investments. It went into stocks. Like I never saw it because I lived off of my monthly checks. So sometimes I'd be like, dang, like everybody out here buying all this stuff. And I'm like, wait, I just don't touch it. That's all it is. And honestly, sometimes I'd have to remind myself of it, but that's kind of how I've always been. Like I've never been in a rush to step now that I am making more money that I need to go do this or do this. Cause if I can live off my cost of attendance, then there's no reason for me to go dabble into something else. It's been working.
How much time and commitment do you have to give to your NIL deals versus just being a college student?
The whole like month of March and April are like completely blocked off. Like I don't do NIL at all during those times. Like during the season, when you have an off day or when you have a day where you have early practice and your afternoon opens up. I've talked to my agents about it. Like they try to negotiate, like whenever I have to do an appearance and whenever I have to do a shoot, like it's no more than like 4 hours, just because on off days, you kind of want your off day to be an off day to relax and rest and recover. But at the same time, these businesses and these brands are investing in you. So you have to give back to them. And that's part of the deal. It's a blessing to be a part of that partnership. But sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you don't want to do it. But then you remember like why you're doing it, what you're doing it for. And it's always worth it.
So now I'm going to move into the part about NIL valuations and the distinction between that and actual earnings. I'm opening it up for anyone who feels comfortable or has an opinion on that.
Well, for me, I think NIL evaluations are, I mean, in a nice way to put it, like it's like fraud, because unless you are really telling your business out there, then like, I feel like it's really hard to know. I remember there was one time, like, there was this thing and they posted that like my total amount of money was like $100,000. And I literally like screenshot it and sent it to my family group chat. And I just like, please, like, I just want to know where they get this information from. Because for me, like, I've always been a pretty like private person in general. And so I always wonder, like, where do you like gather that? Like, I am still confused. It would be great if someone could explain it to me where they get those evaluations from, because unless you're really telling exactly how much is in your pockets, I don't see how everyone can just know that. I don't understand. Because that one really offended me. Because why would you say that?
Sometimes I've Googled myself, I'll just be honest. Sometimes it says like just my WNBA salary. My final year, I took the vet minimum for the sake of the salary cap. And I was like, oh, rude. It's worth $74,000. And I was like, well, that's rude. And then there's other times where I've, seen my net worth and I'm like, oh my God, it's like something in the millions, which is wonderful. But I'm like, how do they even come up with this?
How do you know?
Yeah, it's a little different professionally because some of your money is public. Some of your earnings are public. Even if you own a house and that is public, they can like determine things based on that. But yeah, NIL, it is like an interesting thing.
Like, I've seen the posts of like how much is Paige making. They don't even put into calculations that 20% goes to your agent and 30% goes to taxes. So whatever you're seeing, you're only getting like half of that. And I don't even know what the numbers are at this point, but it's just like, I've learned the pain of taxes. It's crazy. I know it's for a good reason, but like that. And then, yeah, it's just total speculation. Our earnings are definitely not public, but I think it's interesting how everybody thinks they know everything and think they know our private business. But I mean, it's fun to sort of put numbers on it and try to figure it out. But yeah, I guess they have no proof really.
I think it's good to be in the conversation. To me, it shows like, I guess, an aspect of like relevancy in like sports economics, but I don't have NIL to necessarily compare this to. But I remember seeing these types of projections or valuations early on when a majority of us were going overseas. And I would see what mine was and I'm like, you guys don't even know. Like, because there's like a 60% of my salary that I'm making not even here. What upsets me, and which is probably why we're here having this conversation today anyway, is what is the intention of putting the valuation out there? Is the intention to show that we're valuable, or is the intention to prove the point that isn't true, that we're not, And I think that it's just a part of the narrative of pitting women against each other, demeaning women in sport. Because I do remember, Aliyah, what you were talking about, and they were showing it across the board of different athletes. Because I know and I'm inside, I was like, I know that's wrong. And I think at the draft, I told you, I was like, girl, don't even split it. Like, it's fine. You know what you're worth. You know what your value is. People are going to put stuff out there that's not going to be true. But then also, too, there's going to be pressure for people to live up to whatever valuation that may be an overprojection, and that can also affect somebody's career. I think that it's important for people to understand, like, the dynamics of what it means when you put these valuations out. Like, what are you trying to accomplish with these numbers,
Aliyah, you have talked about this publicly, so if you want to go again, but if Nneka or Paige, I feel like I want all three of you to touch on this, which is the difference between NIL and endorsement. And the answer is there is no difference.
Yep.
But I feel like a lot of people miss that aspect of it, that it's the same. And then we can talk about the fact that when you do go pro, you then make a salary. So just kind of like all that in one pot, just give you guys' thoughts.
I mean, I can top it off. Like, this was kind of around, like, for example, when we negotiated the last CBA, people were talking about, a player can make up to $500,000 or $600,000. That was based on salary and compensation and bonuses, which two of those things are not guaranteed, let alone achievable by more than one person. And so distinguishing what all of those different, I guess, definitions are, it is really important. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. I thought it was layman to just understand that Paige and Aliyah, you guys have NIL deals because you're good. You know what I'm saying? When I see people arguing about this, it just doesn't make sense. You're good players. So when NIL came, you're going to get brand endorsement, brand investment. And if you continue to be good in college and in the W, I'm pretty sure that those partnerships will not only bridge, but also grow, because you now are actually less restricted by the confines of what is amateur collegiate. And you probably have more of a landscape to be able to do more, have more investments, have more brand partnerships, have more deals, especially if you continue to do well in the league. And that is now in addition to the salary that you're making. So when people make this argument around the difference between making money NIL and then not making money, saying the professional ranks, it just doesn't make sense to me. And if we're really going to put it that simply and we're talking about salary, you're not making anything as a college athlete. You're making someone as Aliyah Boston. You know what I'm saying? You're making something as Paige Bueckers, you know? Like, that's what's bringing in the partnership. And that follows you wherever you go. So you choose to play professionally and of course excel and win and do all these other things. So I didn't think that it was rocket science, but clearly they asked us to talk about it here because it seems to be for a lot of people. So I don't really know. I don't know what else to say.
I don't get it either, because you said it perfectly. I mean, in college, you're literally like, your check is your cost of attendance. Like, that is your salary. And then you get to league and you're making way more than your cost of attendance checks. NIL deals is endorsements in the league. Like, nothing changes. Those brands still want to follow you. I just think people want to just put down the WNBA a lot. And I think that's their easiest way of doing it, is talking about the money differential between us or the NBA or even now college because of NIL. But I feel like it's kind of hard and annoying in a sense to keep repeating that, like, the money doesn't go away. Like, all the brands that you have in college, like, they'll most likely want to continue to be with you in the league, and then your fan base doesn't change. You still can show that you have so much support. Like, I never understand the conversation, but it's just because they want to put us down.
Ever since I announced, like, you just look at the comments and you're like, yeah, she's staying because she's going to make so much more money staying in college than WNBA. And it's just like, you guys have literally no idea. Because, like, NIL, nothing changes. It's just like, once you get to the league, like, the title changes. It's no longer an NIL deal. It's just an endorsement deal. But those brands who want to continue to partner with you, it's like Nneka was saying, like, we have it because we performed on the basketball stage. So if we continue to perform as we go, like, in the league, they're going to continue to invest in you and continue to want to work with you. And it's like Aliyah was saying, they're trying to compare the WNBA to the NBA. But, like, for college athletics, I feel like in the women's college game, the household names and the stars, like, they're making so much money, and they're not comparing it to the men's college game because it's sort of like an equal playing field. But when obviously you look at the NBA contracts compared to the WNBA contracts, it's not equal. So that's what they're, like, comparing it to. But like you said, like, you're making NIL in college. Once you get to the WNBA, those endorsements are going to follow you on top of the salary that you're also now making, which you didn't have in college. It's really not that hard to educate yourself, but it's like people create these narratives in their head, and it's so hard to undo it because then people just follow those narratives, and then people who don't know nothing follow other people who don't know nothing, and it's just like a bunch of people who know nothing. So it's just impossible. It's like people who are educated obviously know the truth and the real parts of the conversation, but some people just can't get through to, and it's really hard to follow that.
You sound like a 35-year-old like wily vet right there. You're already in the real world. So you guys have all hit it. I'm just going to give my perspective as a professional athlete. These deals, you're going to have less rules, less parameters around them, which can actually increase your earning ability. I don't know the ins and outs. Again, I didn't have NIL in college, but I do understand that there are certain things you have to follow in terms of what the university will allow or so on and so forth. From what I understand, a lot of NIL deals can only be 1 year. I think that's like state to state, so don't quote me. But there actually are rules that could potentially hold you back in your endorsement making money as a college kid versus a professional athlete. I think people don't understand that. Another thing that people don't take into account, and this is actually specific to the WNBA, specific to like literally this year, like last year, this year, and next year, probably like these 3 years. We're about to potentially opt out of the CBA. There's about to be a new media deal on the table. The sooner a college kid turns pro, the sooner their rookie deal and that rookie contract time starts ticking. So you can come off that rookie deal sooner if you go pro sooner, therefore allowing you to take part in what could be a very lucrative media deal. Again, these are all just like these nuances that I don't think people talk enough about. Now, on the college side of things, yeah, the platform of college basketball and March Madness and the NCAA tournament is huge. And there's so many ways to capitalize on that from an NIL endorsement standpoint. But I do think that so much, to your point, Paige, it's like a lot of people who don't know anything talking about it. And then that's the comment that gets picked up, and that's the narrative that gets formed. And that's really what's so important about this conversation, is to really start to put cracks in those narratives and kind of share our experiences. And I'll give another one of mine. I already referenced taking the vet minimum. I was actually down to do that for my final 3 seasons. I walked into our front office and I was like, I want our roster to be amazing. I don't want my money to be dictating anybody else's money. Now, can we have the conversation about how hopefully that doesn't have to happen anymore and the new CBA kind of breaks, down those types of barriers? Yes. But given the framework that I was operating in, this is what I said. It only happened my last year. The financials worked out. It only had to happen my last year. But why do you think I was able to walk into that room and do that? Because I make money off the court. Because my endorsements are what they are, right? And I think a lot of people, again, get it twisted on the fact that you turn pro and you go poor. And Paige, I think you bring up such an excellent point about the NBA comparison also, because that is what makes this conversation in women's basketball so unique and so important. Because women's college basketball has a huge stage, platform, rightfully so, it's earned, it's deserved. There's this misconception that the WNBA is less than, that you're taking the pay cut. There are gonna be some college kids that are making more in their NIL in college than they will as a pro. That's gonna be real. And there's some that made less in college and will make more as a pro. And what it all really comes down to is your game.
Are you hooping?
Are you hooping?
That's all it comes down to.
Anyways, okay, so now that I've got my little rant out of the way, Nneka, if you want to do a deeper dive, just to get it established, just on the overall WNBA comp package and what that includes, insurance, all those things, but also bonuses, if you want to just kind of establish that for us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all of the details to this, but first you have salary, which is what they pay you to play. And then you have compensation, which can amount to a league marketing deal, a team marketing deal. Of course, you have these one-offs with different teams. Sponsorship deals, those are all called compensation. Those are what you would say are endorsement, because they can change from time to time. Salaries, it's fixed. It's the same. You sign it over a certain period of time. That is what you're making. And then, of course, you have bonuses, which the bonus structure in our league, you can get bonuses for being MVP, finals MVP, first team WNBA, defensive player of the year. And so if you were to kind of calculate all of those metrics, yes, a WNBA player. And when I say a WNBA player, I mean that literally. I mean if you do it, there's really only one player that can make up to that $500,000, $600,000. And that is outside of what, like Paige said, your agency and your agents, or even, different partners are doing to reach out for you to make whatever you want to make, whatever your personal compensation is, whatever your NIL compensation is, or the equivalent of that in the W. And so that's what they mean by how much you could earn. But we all do have salaries that are fixed and that we are getting, and most of them are guaranteed.
How do we think these misconceptions that we've just established impact public perception of athletes' earnings, and then ultimately, how do you think it impacts the view of the WNBA?
Well, for me, I think it makes the WNBA, just how Nneka said before, less than. People look at it as, they talk about taking a pay cut, they talk about viewership sometimes, and it's just they're trying to make it seem like, one, no one watches, or we don't make enough money, which once again, I just think is wrong, because now you have people that might not be familiar with WNBA trying to get involved. And then these are kind of the first things that catches them, whether that's on social media or they're talking to someone, that's their first opinion if they don't know anything about it. But I also think that at the same time, we have strong fans that will defend us at any given point just because they know what the W is all about. But I just think that those misconceptions have to change. It can't be that's how we're talking about the league on social media or anything. And I think it also just starts with us too, just continuing to uplift the WNBA, because people can take one little thing of what you said and run with it. It has nothing to do with the rest of your sentence or anything, but they can take one little snippet and be like, oh, well, she actually said this about the league. So if they're saying that, then it must be true,
What would you say to people who say these athletes are taking a pay cut to go to the WNBA?
I would probably say educate yourself, invest in women's basketball. There's always these comments, say there's a star in college basketball, and the comments will read something along the lines of oh, this person is going to save the WNBA. The WNBA doesn't need saving. It's the league of the best women's basketball players in the world. It's just we need people who follow college women's basketball to continue to follow their careers in the WNBA and really just give the respect that these women deserve in the WNBA, because it's the best league in the world. And people who are in college, who they're following, who think they're going to save the WNBA, are aiming to get to that league. So it's the best of the best. I mean, just educate yourself. The money follows you. The money you're making in NIL and deals turn into endorsements in the league on top of the salary. So it's not a less than, it's not a pay cut. It's not a step down from the college game. It's a step up money-wise, talent-wise, and everything-wise.
So Paige, on that note, you obviously just made a big decision. How much did you weigh NIL in this decision to return to UConn for another year?
0%. It wasn't about that at all. Just about, I feel like I barely played college basketball. And the year I did was the COVID season, which was playing in front of cardboard dogs and stuff. So it was just like, this is my first year of having the real college experience. And it's a year of me still finding myself off of 2 major knee surgeries. And then me also not having half of the team I've been playing with and the people that I came with. So just wanting to get more time here in the program, more time with college basketball, and just enjoying it, because college is supposed to be the best time of your life. So
I'm gonna tell you, it gets a little better.
I know.
It gets a little better.
Bro, we haven't even talked about the part where, the commentary around, should someone stay? Should someone go? I'm always like, I'm very pro. So I'm just gonna start by saying that. We all know where I'm coming from. I'm obviously very pro college, but I'm very pro as well. I'm like, wait a minute, nobody talks about the fact that you don't have to go to class anymore. You're an adult. You're already paying taxes. So it's like, that just follows you too. So it's not like that changes much. It's like people don't talk about the beauty that is becoming an adult. By the way, that's not to say, especially because Paige, you're on this call, that's not to say, I firmly believe that every person's decision is so unique to them and like where they are in life, and there's no wrong decision, but I have my opinions, which is a nice little segue to Aliyah. When you decided to leave South Carolina and declare for the draft, given all the talk about NIL, given that you didn't achieve your goal your senior year, I kind of thought like, oh, it wouldn't surprise me if she stayed. And then you just declared. So similar to Paige, what was your thought process? Did NIL play a role? And then just in general, what were you thinking?
Yeah, NIL didn't play a role in it. Honestly, it was more about the relationship that I built with coaches there, all the girls there. And I know our little freshies group, I don't know how many conversations we had in there. We were like, okay, are you going to come back? Because then we all come back. And it was like stuff like that. And we were kind of just going back and forth about what we wanted to do. But honestly, I had a gut feeling about it. I think God just put it on my heart that it was time for me to leave. I honestly went back and forth. My mom was like, okay, like, do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't want to stray away from what God has put in my heart. Like, I don't want to come back to South Carolina and then here I am getting like quadruple teamed again. I was kind of tired of that. That was kind of exhausting to play. And another big part of it was I was done with school. I graduated and I was like, I really don't want to go back and have to do more school. And I think that was a big part. Like, I love the freedom that I have right now, even in season, just being able to like be done with practice and know I can literally take a nap and set no alarm because I don't have study hall. Like, that is truly the best feeling. And so I never wanted to go away from the feeling I had because it was so strong, which at one point it was kind of weird for me because I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should come back. But then Coach Staley, we had all meetings and she was like, I think you're ready. Like, if you want to go, like, I don't think you should be afraid to go because I think you're ready. And that was kind of a big part for me. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go.
Nneka, in your time, who do you think would have been some of like the top NIL earners?
Definitely Skylar.
Yeah.
Definitely Skylar. Like, she would have been head and shoulders above everybody. Maya, for sure. I mean, I'd like to think that I would have, brought home some cash, At the time, people didn't really respect the Pac-10/12, so I probably would have had more regional deals. But Angel McCautry, Tina, for sure. I'm even trying to think of, like, people that even, like, came before me. Like, I grew up watching, like, Sophia Young in Texas. Like, she definitely would have had some. Man, there's just so many players that really ended up doing so well in the league, that I think would have been top earners, like Elena Deladon, BG, of course, like these are all people that got drafted like shortly before me and shortly after me. I think it's also important that this conversation around NIL, I feel as though the knowledge that there is of overseas really gets lost in all of this, because I was raised on vets who were like, stack your cash, play overseas. Do it as long as you can feel your legs. Like, do it as long as you can. And I played overseas for 7 straight seasons. And like, that's how I was, like Sue said, that's how you become comfortable if you're a franchise player, to be able to say like, hey, I'm going to take vet min. Although I do think it's incredibly unfair that we are in a league where you either have to pick if you want to get paid or if you want to win. There's not really any scenario where both can happen. And we've seen that with so many different dynasties in the WNBA, whether it was Seattle, whether it was Minnesota, like you've seen so many different situations where players had to take cuts in the WNBA and kind of rely on the comfort that is the unspoken truth of how much we really do make overseas, and that also still being very much an option for players. There are players, like Sue said, who are making NIL now who may, if they do make the league, don't make as much, and they go overseas and they're still able to supplement what they aren't making. I think it's important too, this is something that I talk to people a lot in the conversation around women's sports, specifically basketball. I think because we've been supported, of course, by this foundation that is men's basketball, specifically the NBA. And I think because of our inception, our evolution, and the misconceptions that come with that, we're in a very delicate place where we know our value and it is reflected in contracts, not here necessarily, at least when I started playing. Now it's getting better. We were able to make that type of money somewhere else, but there was still this, they don't pay in the W. And there was a slight truth to that, because I did make 10 times more overseas than I did in the W. And I think that it bred a space of discomfort in bringing this conversation forward, because we're now at a time where we can say, like Sue said, we're all on this call because we got thick bank accounts, we have money. But now we're evolving to a point where it's okay to talk about the fact that we have money, because I personally think that over time it was faux pas to talk about it, because people either didn't believe you or they would turn the argument on its head and say if you're making money, what you complaining about? And that's not what it's about. It's not about, we want to make enough money and that's that, however it can come. It's about equity, it's really about equity and us being able to get the professional experience top to bottom, from wall to wall. I've been around a lot of different athletes. I was raised by athletes that just were stack your cash, don't say anything, go play in the W, keep your game up. The W was literally reserved for you to be able to win championships, to get a better contract for you to play overseas. That's really what it was for. And then it was kind of the fun part, you get to play in front of everyone. You get to have the hardware, because it, like Paige said, it's the best league in the world. So there is a lot of credibility that comes with winning in the W, but it's okay for us to say, hey, I have money and it's because of this, that, or the other. And I don't think that it's going to equate to less investment. I think it's going to equate to more investment. I think that there's kind of this underlying fear that if we do say that we are making a good living, that people will stop caring and stop investing. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that it's proof that we are viable, that we are worth things, and that we are valuable in a way where people can continue, as you said, Paige, to support and understand that, hey, this is sport. People love it. We get paid adequately, and we do it because this is just something that's just changing the world, and it's creating progress. So I know I didn't answer your question all the way, but that's basically I just had to say that.
You hit it. You hit a lot of different things that I was going to get to anyways. Real quick, I just want to give Shamiqua Holtzclaw, Tamika Catchings. I think they would have killed it in NIL, particularly Shamiqua. I think Diana would have killed it. I also agree with you, Nneka, not to put myself up there. I feel like we both would have done all right. But it is interesting to think about, what if there was NIL? It makes all the questions we're talking about now real when you put yourself in those shoes, in those moments. One thing I just wanted to add, I think where this conversation, NIL, college, WNBA, gets lost is a lot of talking heads out there want to just make this one blanket statement, college makes more money, or there's more endorsements in the WNBA. People just want it to be so simple. And I can't stress enough how unique each player is and their experience is. And you bring up overseas, and that's just another example. Some players have to go overseas. Some players want to go overseas. Some players don't have to. Some players don't want to. Some of that is based on financial decisions. Some of that is people want the cultural experience. Some want to stay home and can't even stomach it. So it's so unique. And the same thing, I think, when it comes to deciding whether you're going to stay in school or leave eligibility on the table, it's so unique to the person. So I just wanted to establish that. But to dispel the WNBA myth, I say this, it's not to be braggy or anything like that. We make a lot of money in the WNBA. WNBA players are not poor. And just because we don't make LeBron money doesn't make us poor, because you want to know what? 99.9% of people in the world are poor compared to LeBron. That comparison really drives me nuts. Literally raise your hand if you're poor compared to LeBron. We all are. It's not even a question. But that doesn't mean we're not making great money. That doesn't mean we're not setting our families up from a generational standpoint. There's so much that I think people don't understand about the financials that, and this is I think what Nneka, what you were talking about, it can get uncomfortable having to talk about yourself or your peers or the league in that way. But I think little by little, we have to start to chip away at that myth in particular.
I would also add that there's a myth that no one watches. I think when you're able to see, like, you put the games on ESPN, the finals, like, you see the viewership going up. And I think it just shows you that people watch, people support, people want to watch. We just have to continue to be given the platform that allows people to do that at their disposal. I mean, turn on ESPN, turn on ESPN2, and you see whatever WNBA game's on for that night. Because, I mean, the fan base is there and you know that they're supporting.
Thank you guys for joining me and having this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
This is my girl.
My name is Paige Bueckers.